Remove them from the galactic map. The words echoed through the Grand Council chamber like a death sentence. Thousands of alien delegates watched in silence as the glowing symbol of Earth slowly disappeared from the center hologram. Humanity's blue planet faded into darkness while the Council banners shimmered above like cold stars. For the first time in 300 years, an entire species had been officially exiled from civilized space. And humanity stood alone. Admiral Elias Ward didn't blink as the ruling was announced. He stood in the middle of the massive chamber surrounded by species that once called humans allies. Now they looked at him with disgust. Or fear. Mostly fear. The Terran Union, the Council speaker declared, has repeatedly violated resource restrictions, expanded military zones without approval, and interfered in protected systems. By unanimous vote, humanity is hereby removed from all trade routes, defense agreements, and Council protection. A deep vibration filled the chamber as the exile seal activated. Some delegates looked relieved. Others looked nervous. Because every species in the room knew one thing. Humanity was dangerous when cornered. The Verix ambassador leaned forward, his silver eyes narrowing. You should consider yourselves lucky, human. 50 years ago we would have destroyed your world for such actions. Elias finally spoke. His calm voice somehow sounded more threatening than shouting. 50 years ago, he said, you still believed Earth was weak. The chamber grew quiet. The Council speaker ignored the comment. All human fleets must withdraw beyond Council borders immediately. Any return will be treated as hostile invasion. A few delegates even applauded. Humanity had become too independent, too powerful, too unpredictable. The Council feared them because humans refused to obey the ancient balance that controlled the galaxy for thousands of years. While other species depended on Council technology, Council fuel, and Council protection, humanity built their own. And that terrified everyone. The Dravari representative suddenly stood. This is a mistake, she warned. The Terrans defended half this galaxy during the Machine Wars. Which is exactly why they must be controlled, another delegate snapped back. Elias listened quietly.
No anger. No begging. No desperation.
That confused them. Most species collapsed after exile. Economies died within months. Governments fell apart. Entire civilizations vanished after losing access to Council trade. But the human admiral simply adjusted his uniform. Then he smiled. And that smile made several alien leaders uncomfortable. The Council speaker frowned. Do you have a final statement before removal procedures begin? Elias slowly looked around the chamber. At every species. Every politician. Every empire. Then he spoke words the galaxy would never forget. You believe humanity needs your permission to survive. The room fell silent. You think exile is punishment, Elias continued. But you've mistaken isolation for weakness. The hologram behind him suddenly changed. Instead of Earth disappearing, new star systems appeared. Hundreds of them. Hidden colonies. Secret shipyards. Mining worlds. Research stations. Entire human-controlled sectors nobody knew existed. Shock spread across the chamber. That's impossible, whispered someone. Elias ignored them. For 30 years, he said calmly, humanity prepared for this exact moment. The Council speaker's face darkened. What have you done? We stopped depending on you. A massive fleet appeared in the hologram. Then another. Then another. Human warships filled entire sectors of space. Not Council designs. Human designs. Faster. Heavier. Deadlier. The Verix ambassador stepped backward. Those fleet numbers are classified beyond Council limits. Elias looked directly at him. We stopped following Council limits a long time ago. Panic spread through the chamber. Because suddenly the exile vote no longer felt like a victory. It felt like a mistake. A terrible mistake. The Council speaker slammed his staff against the floor. You dare threaten the Council?
No, Elias replied.
We are setting terms. The chamber exploded into furious shouting. Security drones activated instantly. Weapons locked onto the human admiral. But Elias didn't move. Because at that exact moment, every communication screen inside the chamber flashed red. Emergency alert. Unknown fleets detected. The room froze. A terrified operator spoke through the system. Council Defense Command reporting. Thousands of human vessels have appeared across major border sectors. More alerts appeared. Trade routes blocked. Defense gates captured. Council fleets surrounded. The impossible was happening. Humanity had already moved before the vote even ended. Elias clasped his hands behind his back. "You exiled Earth," he said quietly. "Now humanity answers as its own civilization." The council speaker's voice trembled. "This is war." Elias stared at the chamber with ice-cold calm. "No," he said. "War would have started yesterday." He paused. "This." The hologram zoomed outward, showing human fleets spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. "Is negotiation." And for the very first time in galactic history, the Council realized humanity had never truly been under their control. They had only been waiting for the moment they no longer needed permission. And now that moment had arrived. 20 years earlier, Earth already knew the Council would betray them. Not because humans were psychic. Not because they had spies. Because history always repeated itself. Every species that became too strong eventually faced the same choice. Submit. Or disappear. Humanity chose a third option. Prepare. Deep beneath Antarctica, hidden under miles of ice and reinforced steel, the Terran Strategic Command operated in complete secrecy. Only 7 people in the entire galaxy knew it existed. Inside the massive underground chamber, holographic maps displayed hundreds of hidden construction projects scattered across unexplored space. General Myra Kane stood beside the main table. "We are running out of time," she said. "The Council is already discussing sanctions." The room remained quiet. President Nathan Hale folded his hands. "Then we accelerate Phase 0. Several officers exchanged nervous looks. Phase 0 was humanity's most extreme contingency plan. Complete independence from the Galactic Council. No trade dependence. No military dependence.
No technological dependence.
Humanity would survive alone if necessary. But building that future required sacrifice. Entire economies had to secretly shift. Civilian industries were quietly converted into hidden manufacturing systems. Exploration fleets vanished into deep space. Officially, they were lost. In reality, they were building new human worlds beyond Council territory. A scientist activated another hologram. "We've completed the first autonomous shipyards," she announced. "Production speed exceeds Council projections by 300%. General Kane nodded. "And the Gate project?" The room became tense. One engineer hesitated before speaking. "We succeeded." Even the president looked shocked. "You're certain?" The engineer swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. Human-made jump gates are operational." Silence filled the chamber. That achievement changed everything. For centuries, the Galactic Council controlled all major travel gates. Any species that depended on those gates depended on the Council. But humanity had solved the impossible. Independent faster than light infrastructure. Freedom. President Hale slowly stood. "Then it begins." And from that day forward, humanity started vanishing in plain sight. Entire fleets disappeared into hidden sectors. Council inspectors noticed unusual resource requests, but humans always had believable explanations. Mining expansion. Scientific research. Colonization support. The Council never realized humans were preparing for exile. Or war. Years passed. Human technology advanced rapidly in secret. Unlike the Council species, humans improved through competition and constant adaptation. Every crisis made them stronger. Every restriction forced innovation. The Council believed they were limiting humanity. Instead, they were training them. One night, General Kane visited the hidden orbital shipyards above Jupiter. Thousands of massive warships floated in silence. None carried Council signatures. These ships were entirely human-built. A young officer stared at the fleet in awe. If the Council saw this, they'd panic, Kane replied. Exactly. The officer looked uncertain. Do you really think they'll exile us someday? Kane turned toward the stars. Yes. How can you be so sure? Because we stopped asking permission. Meanwhile, Inside Council territory, anti-human sentiment slowly spread. Human companies dominated trade routes. Human engineers solved problems faster than Council scientists. Human colonies expanded too quickly, too independently. The old powers grew nervous. Then came the machine border incident. A Council fleet was trapped near hostile machine territory. Communications failed. Rescue missions collapsed. Humanity responded without authorization. Admiral Elias Ward led a rescue fleet directly into forbidden space. Against impossible odds, humans saved over 3 million civilians. But instead of gratitude, the Council became afraid. Because humans had entered restricted zones, bypassed Council defenses, and succeeded where ancient empires failed. From that moment on, the exile discussion became serious. Back on Earth, Phase 0 accelerated. Children in schools never knew the truth. Citizens lived normal lives. But behind the scenes, humanity transformed into something entirely different. A civilization preparing to stand alone. Factories hidden inside asteroids built military drones 24 hours a day. Scientists developed energy systems far beyond Council standards. Colonies buried beneath oceans and moons became emergency survival worlds. Humanity built backups for everything. They planned for collapse. And that preparation changed them psychologically. Humans stopped fearing exile. In fact, some leaders quietly hoped for it. Because the Council's restrictions were slowing human progress. One evening, President Hale met privately with Admiral Elias Ward. If exile happens, Hale asked, can we survive? Elias answered instantly, we won't just survive. The Admiral looked toward the stars. We'll finally be free. The exile vote was supposed to break humanity. Instead, it broke the Council. Within 6 hours of Earth's removal, panic spread across every major system in the galaxy. Human fleets appeared everywhere. Not attacking. Not destroying. Positioning. Like a giant chessboard already prepared long before the game began. Council admirals stared in horror as human carriers blocked critical jump routes with terrifying precision. How did they mobilize this fast? One commander shouted. No species can deploy fleets across 20 sectors simultaneously. But humanity could. Because the fleets were already there. Hidden. Waiting. On the capital world of Verix Prime, financial markets collapsed overnight. Trade depended heavily on human cargo networks. And now every human vessel had vanished from Council systems. Supply shortages began instantly. Fuel prices exploded. Factories shut down. Food shipments stopped arriving. The Council had expected humanity to suffer economically. Instead, the opposite happened. Earth had prepared alternate trade routes years earlier. The Council hadn't. Inside emergency Council chambers, leaders argued endlessly. This is economic warfare. No, another answered nervously. This is leverage. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued normally. Children still went to school. Cities still glowed at night. Restaurants stayed open. People watched the Council crisis unfold on public broadcasts with calm curiosity. Because unlike the rest of the galaxy, humanity already knew this day was coming. Admiral Elias Ward stood aboard the flagship Resolute watching fleet reports arrive one after another. All outer sectors secured. Trade Corridor 7 under Terran control. Council defense fleets retreating. Not a single shot fired. That was the frightening part. Humanity had achieved total strategic dominance without open war. General Kane entered the command room. The Council wants emergency negotiations. Elias smiled slightly. Already. They're scared. They should be. Across the galaxy, independent colonies began choosing sides. Many smaller worlds secretly admired humanity. The Council had ruled through bureaucracy and control for centuries. Humans offered something different. Freedom. Partnership. Opportunity. One colony governor broadcast a message that quickly spread across galactic networks. The Council ruled us with fear. Humanity trades with us as equals. More systems started defecting. Not through invasion. Through choice. That terrified the Council even more. Because ideas spread faster than armies. On the Council capital, Security forces surrounded government buildings as riots erupted. Citizens demanded answers. How did humans hide entire fleets? Why are supplies disappearing? Did the Council lie to us? The truth became impossible to hide. Humanity had quietly become one of the most advanced civilizations in existence. And nobody noticed until it was too late. The Verex's ambassador stormed into the emergency chamber. We must strike now before they grow stronger. Another leader slammed a fist onto the table. Are you insane? Their fleets already outnumber regional defenses. But if we wait, if we attack, someone interrupted, we lose. Silence followed. Because everyone knew it was true. The Council had spent centuries relying on political control rather than innovation. Humanity evolved differently. Faster. Aggressively. Relentlessly. Every restriction forced adaptation. Every threat created improvement. Humans didn't avoid pressure. They weaponized it. Back aboard the Resolute, Elias received a classified report. Sir, long-range scans confirm machine empire activity near Council borders. The room became quiet. The machine empire. The ancient enemy feared by every species. For decades, the Council survived only because humanity defended frontier sectors during machine raids. Now humanity was gone. General Kane folded her arms. They'll realize soon. Elias nodded slowly. The Council exiled the one species keeping the monsters away. And right on schedule. The attacks began. Machine fleets emerged from dark space near undefended Council territories. Automated worlds burned within hours. Emergency distress signals flooded galactic networks. Council defense forces scrambled desperately. But their fleets were scattered and weakened. The same fleets they once relied on humanity to support. Inside the emergency chamber, panic turned into terror. We need Terran assistance immediately. Call Elias Ward. Offer them reinstatement. But when the transmission finally connected, humanity answered differently. Elias appeared on the hologram surrounded by human officers. The Council speaker swallowed nervously. Admiral, we request military cooperation against the machine threat. Elias stared at them calmly.
No.
The chamber erupted. You can't abandon billions. You're part of this galaxy. Elias finally spoke. You exiled Earth. Silence. Then he delivered the sentence that changed galactic history forever. Humanity protects its allies. His eyes hardened. You made sure we were no longer yours. Entire worlds burned for 3 straight days. The machine empire advanced deeper into Council territory with terrifying speed. Without human frontier fleets holding defensive lines, the ancient enemy moved almost uncontested. Council admirals were desperate. Their ships were slower. Their command systems outdated. Their governments divided. For centuries, the Council relied on political unity more than military readiness. Humanity had warned them repeatedly. Nobody listened. Now billions were trapped. Distress calls flooded every communication network. Civilians begged for rescue. Governments collapsed. Trade routes became graveyards filled with destroyed ships. And through it all, human fleets remained motionless at the borders. Watching. Waiting. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, panic had replaced arrogance. The same delegates who applauded Earth's exile now looked terrified. The Council speaker activated an emergency transmission to Admiral Elias Ward. This time, his voice lacked pride. Please, he said quietly, we need your help. Elias appeared on the hologram again. Cold. Calm. Controlled. The Terran Union no longer recognizes Council authority, he replied. The Verex's ambassador slammed both fists against the table. Millions are dying. And yet, Elias answered, you called humanity dangerous. Nobody spoke. Because they had. For decades. Humans were criticized for militarizing frontier sectors. Criticized for expanding defenses. Criticized for developing independent technologies. Now those same preparations were the galaxy's only hope. The Council speaker lowered his head slightly. What do you want? That question changed everything. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was negotiating from weakness. Elias didn't answer immediately. He let silence spread through the chamber. Then he spoke carefully. Humanity will assist under new terms. Every delegate listened. No species, Elias said, will control Terran expansion. Several leaders looked horrified. Human-built gates remain under human authority. No objections came. They couldn't afford objections anymore. All trade restrictions against independent colonies end immediately. More silence. And finally, Elias stepped closer to the hologram. The Galactic Council will never again possess authority to exile another civilization. The chamber froze. Because this wasn't simply negotiation. Humanity was rewriting the structure of galactic power itself. The Varex ambassador snarled. "You're exploiting a crisis." Elias stared directly at him.
No.
His voice became ice-cold. "You created one." The council speaker closed his eyes briefly. Then he nodded. Accepted. Just like that. Centuries of council dominance ended. Within minutes, human fleets moved. And the galaxy witnessed something terrifying. Human military coordination operated almost like a living organism. Massive carrier groups jumped across sectors with impossible precision. Autonomous defense drones flooded battle zones. Human rail cannons ripped through machine vessels at extreme range. Entire fleets moved faster than council sensors could track. On the devastated colony world of Nereth, civilians watched the sky erupt with fire as human ships arrived overhead. A little girl pointed upward. The Terrans came. Above the planet, the flagship Resolute fired its main weapon for the first time publicly. A beam of concentrated energy split a machine dreadnought completely in half. The explosion lit the atmosphere like a second sun. Council officers watching remotely fell silent in shock. They had no idea humanity possessed weapons that powerful. And suddenly they understood something horrifying. If humans truly wanted war, the Council would never have survived it. Admiral Elias directed fleets personally across dozens of battlefronts simultaneously. Evacuate civilian sectors first. Deploy drone shields around orbital cities. Protect retreat corridors. Unlike the machine empire, humans prioritized saving lives before securing territory. That mattered. Entire worlds began celebrating human arrival. Not as conquerors. As protectors. Meanwhile, inside Council territory, public opinion shifted rapidly. The old governments looked weak. Humanity looked decisive. Capable. Fearless. More colonies requested Terran alliances. Some even removed council banners voluntarily. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone imagined. General Kane stood beside Elias aboard the Resolute. "We are winning." Elias nodded slowly. "Yes." But his expression remained serious. Because victory wasn't the real goal. Freedom was. The machine war lasted 3 brutal weeks. Then humanity launched something the galaxy had never seen before. Operation Nightfall. Thousands of hidden Terran ships emerged from deep space behind machine territory. Stealth fleets. Secretly built over decades. The machines never saw them coming. Within 48 hours, the machine empire lost its primary command worlds. For the first time in centuries, the ancient enemy retreated. The galaxy erupted in disbelief. Humanity had accomplished what nobody else could. They didn't just survive exile. They became the dominant power in the stars. And they did it entirely on their own terms. 1 year later, the Galactic Council still existed. But it no longer ruled the galaxy. Humanity changed everything. The old council chamber looked different now. The massive throne-like seats of the founding species had been removed and replaced with equal platforms arranged in a circle. No species above another. No empire controlling the rest. And directly at the center stood Earth's representative, Admiral Elias Ward. Though most people no longer called him Admiral. Now they called him the Architect. Because he helped rebuild the galaxy after its collapse. The council speaker position no longer existed. Instead, each civilization held equal voting authority, exactly as humanity demanded. Many older species hated the change, but ordinary citizens across the galaxy celebrated it. For the first time in history, smaller worlds finally had a voice. Human trade networks expanded rapidly. New colonies flourished. Scientific cooperation exploded between civilizations once restricted by council politics. Human-built jump gates connected sectors faster than ever before. And Earth became the center of a new era. Not through conquest. Through influence. That frightened some people even more. On Earth, life remained surprisingly normal despite humanity's rise. Cities thrived. Children studied alien languages in schools. Civilian ships traveled freely between worlds. Human culture spread everywhere. Music, movies, food, ideas. The galaxy became more connected than ever before. One evening, Elias stood alone on a balcony overlooking New Geneva City. General Myra Kane approached quietly. "You know," she said, "they're calling this the human century." Elias smiled faintly. "Centuries don't matter." Kane leaned beside him. "Then what does?" He looked toward the stars. Choices. Far above Earth, thousands of ships moved peacefully through orbit. Human ships. Alien ships.
Civilian transport.
Defense fleets. All together. A future nobody imagined possible before the exile. Kane crossed her arms. "Do you ever regret it?" "The exile?" "Yes." Elias thought for a moment, then shook his head. They forced humanity to become what we were always meant to be. Meanwhile, beyond explored space, hidden Terran exploration fleets pushed deeper into the unknown. Because humanity never stopped moving forward. That was the truth the Council failed to understand. Humans adapted faster than fear itself. Pressure didn't destroy them. It focused them. And exile? Exile simply removed the final chain. Across the galaxy, stories about Earth spread endlessly. The species that turned rejection into power. The civilization that prepared in silence while others underestimated them. The people who were exiled. Then returned strong enough to rewrite the stars. On a distant colony world, a teacher finished explaining the machine war to her students. One small alien child raised his hand. Why didn't humanity take revenge on the Council? The teacher smiled softly. Because humans already won. Back on Earth, the original exile recording remained preserved inside the Terran archives. Visitors from countless worlds came to watch the historic moment. The moment the Council believed humanity was defeated. And the moment humanity quietly took control of its own destiny. The final recording always ended the same way. Admiral Elias Ward standing alone in the Council chamber. Calm. Unshaken. Fearless. "You exiled Earth," he said. "Now humanity answers as its own civilization." Those words became legendary across the galaxy. Not because they sounded powerful, but because they were true. Humanity no longer needed permission to exist. And once humanity realized that, nothing in the universe could ever control them again.